Okay, welcome to the next session for the English Australia Conference. How can we support you better looking after ELICOS students in uncertain times? The presenter for this session is Tazin Abdullah from Macquarie University English Language Centre. Thanks, Tazin.
Hi, Sophie. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending my presentation. Thank you also to English Australia for giving me the opportunity to tell you about this small-scale research project that I've been doing at the English Language Centre at Macquarie University. I think I can safely say on behalf of all of us that we've had a rough few weeks this year. As support staff, at this present moment, our soft skills are more important than ever, but also it is more challenging than ever for us to employ all these skills we've spent so many years developing. You know, at the beginning, when we all went into lockdown, the lion's share of our attention was on all the technical details. What do we need to do? What are the things we need to do to keep things going? And if we've learned anything from the last few months, it's that the things that we need to do will need to be adjusted in the foreseeable future. This research project was a chance for us to take a step back and explore the how behind the what we do. We asked questions of the participants that specifically avoided the gathering of statistics. You know, we didn't want numbers. What we were after were their reflections, their perspectives. I was on the hunt for voices that would help me to understand better how to support our students, how to look after them in their journeys and in their endeavor for success. So for today, what I'd like to do is begin by telling you who and where I got all my information from. Now, I'd love to tell you everything that everyone told me, but I'm acutely aware of the time limit. So what I will do is share with you the highlights of my findings. Now, I say my findings very liberally because these are perspectives we've all come across. They're not mine alone. But the dimension for me in this project was that I understood how these issues continue to affect our students. So together with that, I would like to also share with you some of the things that my colleagues and I at the ELC have been working on based on these findings. Now, in the course of running this project, I became quite an expert at begging and pleading students for answers to my questions. And I must say, my begging and pleading bore fruit, and I got excellent results. So I begged and pleaded with former and current ELC students. I got information from our wonderful teaching staff. Our great team of advisors also gave me their take on things. And I went through our meticulously kept notes and records of emails and interactions with students. Into my cauldron also went some of my years of experience as both a teacher and an advisor. We asked them a variety of questions, and when we gave the questions to our staff and students, we had to specify that these are not related to academic issues, that these talk specifically about welfare, about well-being and mental health support. One of the questions was asked for examples of students who sought help in relation to well-being and the reasons for those. I asked how students approach this very sensitive matter of seeking help. I asked about people's experiences, you know, what has been effective to encourage students to seek help. We asked for specific words, sentences, gestures, and how we can convey these online. We also asked for some input on examples, you know, activities that are likely to work in promoting well-being and encouraging students to seek help. In answer to that first question, where we asked students for help, for instances of students seeking help, a lot of students said, no, we didn't ask for help, And when we asked why they didn't ask for help, there were a lot of, I didn't know you existed, I didn't know who to ask and, you know, where I should go. And I actually thought, how could this possibly be? One of the things we did painstakingly was get information out to students. There were emails after emails, there were phone calls, Zoom meetings, orientation, late orientation, in-class orientation, repeated information about who to contact, how to contact. And then I thought, you know what? Maybe that was the problem. Our poor students have been drowning in information. We have bombarded them with information, with messages after messages. And naturally, what they have been doing is skimming through this information and choosing the things that they felt were important, like, what's the Zoom link to get in my class? What's the, how to pay my fees, how to enroll, what they thought was important. And we as support staff have not been able to attract their attention. We did not make an impact. Another issue that students spoke about was privacy. They were very, very concerned about privacy. And, in the last few years, we have spoken to our students a lot about cybersecurity. We have warned them about what they put on the internet. And now we're in a situation where we are doing everything on the internet. For students to discuss a grammar problem or a vocabulary issue or paragraph structure over Zoom may not seem like a big deal. But to speak to someone about something that's private or an emotional issue can be very daunting. There's that concern. Is someone recording me? Someone taking notes on the side? Will this affect me later? One student said, somehow others will find out, whether it's a good thing or whether it's a bad thing. They will know. And this is after we have repeatedly assured them of confidentiality. We have said, it is all confidential, but if someone doesn't feel safe, they just don't feel safe. And you and I are left with the dilemma of how do we make someone feel safe? Which brings me to the part of this project that for me was the most revealing. It reminded me of a quote popularly attributed to Maya Angelou. Now, there's some disagreement about whether Maya Angelou said it or whether a Mormon minister said it first, but that's not important. What's important is that this quote is very pertinent to the work that we do. I have learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Nowhere was this more apparent to me than in the answers that our students gave us. Normally, when I plan an interaction with the student, I think about, what I need to get the student to do and what steps I have to take to get there. And I thought, what, maybe from now on, I change that a little bit. And I think, how would I like the student to feel at the end of this interaction so that they may achieve their goal? Maybe that's how I can approach it. It was interesting that when I asked the students about what we could do, they spent more time describing how they wanted to feel. Their answers were more holistic, and it was very apparent that to them, talking and interacting to us is not just some kind of business transaction. I would like to share with you some of the things students said. Here's one. We don't know whether expressing our feelings is right or wrong. There's that I don't know again. Before I share the next one with you, I will have to tell you that that next one really got to me very emotionally. And in fact, when I shared it with my colleagues at the ELC, they also took a moment. But we can tell that if you are just doing your job or you really care about us. I consider myself a person who cares, but if a student doesn't understand this, how do I convey this online? Just be sincere. Show you care. The words sincere and care featured prominently in the student answers. Please be patient. We're kind of homeless. You guys are the first group of people we have met in this country. This psychological homelessness must be so much more magnified when our students are not even in the same physical space as us. Students, are individuals, and like all human beings, they crave a connection. Connection is very individual, it's very personal. And when an individual feels they have made a connection, they feel important and they feel that they have a stake in the interaction that is taking place. If we can focus on how a student wants to feel, I think we can adjust our interactions to achieve all these goals to help them be successful. Now, before I go on to the next part, I have to really say how thankful I am to my ELC colleagues and to the students for the amount of information that they gave me, the amount of detail that they gave me for me to be able to bring this to you. We talked about how we could get our students' attention. How are we going to get them to listen to us, support staff? So many of the students said, why don't you use GIFs? Why don't you use emojis and memes? And I thought, why not? GIFs and memes are culturally relevant to a large portion of the generation that we work with. Now, before you judge what I'm about to show you, please remember that this is the first time that I have made GIFs and memes, and also that I use free software with limited features. So here's GIF number 1, where the wig very nicely matches with my pink scarf. GIF number 2, where it's not so matchy-matchy, but I still like it. Both GIFs are conveying fairly important information that we want to give to the student, but in a funny way. Humor is important. If someone can laugh at you or have a little bit of fun at your expense, they can let their guard down a little bit, feel a little bit lighter. I remember from my days as a teacher when sometimes in order to make a connection with the class, I'd let them make a few jokes about me, or I'd slip in something where they could make fun of me a little bit and feel safe with me. It makes us look more approachable, easy to speak with. I have found out from my discussions with students that a space of emotional security is as valuable for them as cybersecurity. I will now show you 2 memes that I made. Also, I should mention that the watermarks on the GIFs and the memes will tell you what software I used. So here's meme number 1. It's the famous yes, no meme. And here's meme number 2. I mean, everyone likes cats, right? I would like to next show you 2 animated videos that I made, also using a free software called Movely. In the videos, I tried to use the words and the sentences the students suggested we should use. So here is video number 1. When I normally give information and orientations and things to students, the way we present it is usually, I am this, I do this, and by the way, we're confidential. And maybe that's because, that's how we're used to writing essays or presentations. But I thought for this, maybe since privacy is such a big issue for our students, why don't I put that first? So that might attract them. These short videos are great. They only demand a little bit of time, but they also give a student the space they need to watch on their own and then follow up, rather than it looking like we are imposing help or imposing support. It's something that they can follow up. I'll leave you. I had so much fun actually making these videos. I'll show you my next one, which is another one I made with Movely. Using videos, GIFs, and memes make the experience of interacting with us a little lighter and not so tense. There are a few other things that students suggested, and one of them students suggested were self-assessment questionnaires, anonymous, of course. When they log into their online portals, these could come in as a pop-up that they have to do to progress to their next activity, and they could ask them how they feel. And using emojis is pretty simple for them to just click on. that could be followed by an infographic or a meme or something like that that they could remember. And these things could be played over and over again on their online portals, or things that they could click on. Another thing students suggested is that support staff could go into the classrooms and maybe just randomly speak to students in breakout rooms, but alone. And while we're speaking, maybe on the share screen, there could be that GIF or that meme with the information they need. We could give the videos to the teachers to play in class and things like that. I really like these ideas that came from students. It showed that they wanted a space of safety, and these things give them anonymity and privacy, and students like that. Also, it gives them the space to do things on their own, to take the next step. It must feel very, very empowering for a student to be able to go, oh, I can assess myself and then I can follow up, rather than someone coming and saying, do this, do that, or I'm going to offer you this. I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised, with the number of students who wanted to do things on their own and then follow up. I would like to share with you a few more things that students said. This first one here, where they said to look at the camera, I know this is really difficult to do because I struggle with it too. It's very tempting to look at, the screen, but students suggested, and teachers also suggested this, to look at the screen, because that makes somebody feel, sorry, not the screen, the camera directly, because that makes it feel like you're focusing on them. Good lighting is essential. We all know that. A genuine smile. Students kept writing about smiles, and that it is possible, very, very easy to tell a genuine smile from a fake one. And, now I've gotten into the habit of, before I go into a meeting with the student, to put myself on camera and check my smile. Now, someone who doesn't know what I'm doing might think that looks really weird and a bit vain, but it's actually very good practice, because when I'm looking at the camera just before a meeting, it helps me to see if the smile that I have conveys what I would like to say to the student. When a student is describing a problem, show concern, coming closer to the camera, nodding, doing some movements that show them that you are paying attention to them. Paying attention to them is really, really important. And one of the ways you can do that is by letting them see your hands from time to time. I mean, I guess you could do that, but that's hard to do for the entire meeting. So you could do that intermittently. You could, wave your hands around so they know that you're not doing something else. They can hear someone typing. They can tell if you're on the phone. If I need to look up something for the purposes of the meeting, or I need to read something, I usually say to a student, I'm just going to look away for a minute, or I'm going to look at something else to give you some information. Placing a hand on your chest, it's quite symbolic. Students feel like you're empathizing with them. And a few weeks ago, actually, I was speaking to a student who said to me, hey, Tazin, I hope your presentation goes really well. And I said, oh, thank you. As soon as I said thank you, the student adjusted herself and made sure I could see her and bowed on the camera. And that meeting ended with me feeling, this childlike joy. And when I was thinking about it later, it was so nice that, this other human being made the effort to move and then perform this profound act of respect. And it made me feel really, really good. It left me with a good feeling. Changes in the way we speak and the tone of our voice will also impact how a student responds. And this has become very important for us as we spend so much time online with them. Students suggested these variety of sentences and things to say, like, don't be scared, don't be ashamed, you're not in trouble. I have found in my experience, students react really, really well to thank you for your patience, whether it's in emails or in interactions. Even the most impatient student returns it with the thank you for your time. I think, the acknowledgement to somebody, even if they're not being patient, that we are grateful for whatever it is they're giving us, encourages them just to produce that a little bit more, just to be a little bit more patient. And the last thing I have here, and it might sound a bit funny, but wave. This I did instinctively in a meeting with a student. When the video is on just before a meeting, and you're waiting for the audio to come on and those dots are going up and down on the screen. The student was waiting on screen for me, and they were grumpy, like, really grumpy. You could see it. And I just went, And as soon as I waved and smiled at the student, they smiled, they waved back, smiled, and then we began to talk as soon as the audio came on. I didn't say anything while I was waving or smiling because I didn't want them to lip read me. I wanted them to concentrate on this. And I thought back on it later. In my head, I must have conceptualized someone standing across the room that I know and just waved, and I wanted to fill those moments with something. But it was good because what that did really for us was change the dynamics of that meeting. Waving and smiling are cross-cultural ways of communicating, and they're very positive ways of communicating. And as you know, in our work, it is very, very important that anything we produce be culturally relevant and culturally appropriate for our students. I don't consider myself a very hip or a cool person. So, and I don't really keep up that much with trends. I assume that even better than me, students will be able to tell us what is trending, what's appropriate, both culturally and both appropriate and relevant culturally. I think a really great thing for us to do would be to have student focus groups or student volunteers who can get together and design these things that will help us, to make it would be very educational for them and very helpful for us. I was really surprised, by the number of students who said, "Oh, Tazin, if you need some help, contact us. Let us know if we can help you with anything further." How great, how wonderful, because their involvement will give them a voice. It will also give them an investment in their own well-being, which would work really, really well for us. I think in the coming months, lots of these things will change. There will be new communication tools, something else will develop on Zoom, something else that the students like more. I think really, really important for us would be to focus on how each thing makes a student feel. And if we adjust our communications based on how they feel, how we address they feel, I think we will be a little more successful at communicating with them. I mean, I did this small scale research project, right? And I found out all this information that students want to feel safe, they want to feel secure, important, acknowledged. I would love to find out more. I would love to find out if your institution did something similar or what they found out. And if we could share this information, I think in the coming months, it would be wonderful for us to be able to learn more ways in which to help our students. Because, one does not simply know things. I had to make one more mean. I mean, I was having fun with these things. I've reached, almost the end of my presentation. And if I may, I would like to give you just a short story, a personal anecdote. I have started studying again, and it's, providential that I am again seeing things like a student. And like all students, the first time a staff member sees me is on the online platform, learning platform, with my profile picture with my hijab on. And I realized that some of the guidance I was being given and the way my questions were being answered was based on my profile picture. Now, without getting into the details of that interaction, I reflect on it now, and there are two things that I think of. One, that when I was being given advice, I lost a little bit of confidence in the person giving me that advice. I mean, they may be qualified on pen and paper, of course, to guide me, but their making assumptions made me feel like, oh, I don't have much of a voice here. And my confidence did fall a little bit. The second thing was that it didn't take me very long to dispel those assumptions. I was very quickly able to correct them. And then I thought of one of our students who may have neither my communication skills or my language capacity, and how they would feel that they don't have a voice if someone makes assumptions about them or gives them advice based on assumptions. How dehumanizing for them it would be if they felt that nobody cared about their concerns, or that they themselves could not voice their concerns. I think the way that our students will be able to cope in the coming months will be if we give them a voice, and it will be the status we give to their voices. If our students feel that they have a voice, that they are able to express themselves, and we communicate with them based on that, they will see that their investment, both financial and emotional, in our institutions has been successful. And as support staff, I feel that we are in a unique position to be able to encourage that and lead that within our institutions. I will leave you with one last GIF. I promise no more after this, but just a GIF to tell you my details. Thank you very much for listening to me today, and thank you again to English Australia.
Thank you, Taz. That was so interesting to hear all about your research and also to hear the student voice and all of their comments coming through. Thank you for sharing that with us. There were lots of comments in the chat with people relating to what you had to say as well.
Oh, wonderful.
And there are a few questions. The first one was, were there any big gaps between what the students thought and what the teachers thought?
I think in what most of what they said, I covered pretty much in my presentation, yeah. But one of the things students kept saying repeatedly was, please look at us as individuals. Yeah. And I think often, in classrooms that are full and you're looking at so many students and trying to meet everyone's needs at the same time, students may feel that the individual is not being catered to. And I don't think that they meant that in an academic sense. I think that they meant that more in the interaction sense, that when we speak to them, we focus on the individual rather than cultural stereotypes or assumptions that we may bring to the conversation. And we're all guilty of it. We all often come to it. And I think that's an exercise that we probably have to develop over time.
Okay, great. The next question's a very broad question. Maybe you can just make a few comments on it in the limited time that we have. How can we address cultural bias?
Oh, that is a big question. Actually, what's interesting is last year at the ELC, I did a presentation about this because this was something that was on the minds of our colleagues as well at the ELC. From my own experience, if I'm approaching someone from a different culture or another culture, I think the first thing I tell myself is, one, obviously not to make assumptions and to be aware of the fact that I don't know lots of things, that I may not be aware. So I have to be honest and sincere. I think if, I don't know which saint or which sage said it, but I think that's all, might be a cross-cultural saying, that the beginning of wisdom comes from saying, I don't know. Because that's what encourages you to learn more and to be sincere. And I think another human being will probably click onto that when they realize that you're sincere. And even if you were to make a mistake, I think it would be looked at forgivingly because there was no arrogance in it, that what you did was approach something with sincerity. Sorry, Sophie, I can't hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to hear that you've been doing other presentations at the ELC as well. Wonderful. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the session. Is there anything else you'd like to comment on before we finish, Taz?
It would be great if other institutions are doing studies and things like that and get in touch with me. I would love to share information. We'll get on now with maybe trialing these things at the ELC and finding out if they have an impact. I would love to hear from others.
Great. Yeah, I can see the GIF there. It's inviting us. It works so well. I love the memes as well. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Sophie. Bye, everyone.
Bye.